because the conversation was so good, I needed to bring this onto the podcast. And come on, who doesn't love a good bonus episode? So from my IG Live, I bring you the bonus goods. Check it out, and I'd love to hear your thoughts afterwards. If you haven't checked out episode number 9 on the Freedom CEO podcast, make sure you do that. Hi, Vanessa.
I'm so proud of you and your podcast. Like, I feel honored to have been a guest on it.
To give you guys some of the behind the scenes, Vanessa and I have actually known each other for quite a few years now. And Vanessa was a really big support in our Freedom campaign that we do that raises awareness to fight human trafficking in Canada and abroad. And so if you guys are in tune with Freedom, you may have seen that before. But kind of like outside of that, we've never really connected outside of like the nonprofit work and that campaign. And then she was in Costa Rica, which is so awesome.
I feel like my mind is still blown about all the connections and like, I mean, it's not surprising because I'm such a believer in the universe aligning people at the right times. Like,
I'm like, I'm going to be launching like my podcast coming up. And that's when I found out that she had explanted. And of course, you guys know that I have as well. And so I was saying how I wanted to bring that into the podcast because I think it's a really important component. And everybody has, even though there might be some like same symptoms, similar symptoms, everybody's story is different and everybody's story is so unique. And the more that we elevate women's voices on this issue, I think the more we're able to not just like wake people up, but also like men as well, right? Like as you hear more and more, it doesn't just become a one-off story or a rare incident as parts of the medical community proclaim and would like people to think. And so for me, you guys know I'm all about freedom of speech. I'm all about freedom of health, freedom of body autonomy, and all of these things. And so it's really, really important when the medical community or these establishments are trying to really steer our beliefs in one direction. Of course, me, I go to the opposite. I'm like, why are they doing that? Let's go look at it from this side instead of, And so that's like one of these topics, like on the breast implant industry in itself. And, Vanessa and I both like share this same, I'm not a passion, but like, I love my implants, and like, this isn't like to shit on implants. But what is going on through implants is no bueno. It is not good. It is highly toxic. And episode 9 that dropped today, literally the title is, her story. She thought she was going to die. That's a pretty big statement. That's not my story, but this was Vanessa's story. So we both are excited for you to tune in. We're not talking about the episode today. That's kind of the whole point. We're not talking about the episode. You got to go download it. It is everywhere. So you can get it on Apple. You can get it on Spotify. It's on YouTube. It's on Podcast Addict, on Deezer. It's on all of them. So click the link in my bio, whichever place you love tuning in from. I've made it easy for you. So just click the link in my bio. And if you go on stories today, Vanessa's specific episode is linked for you as well. So easy peasy. But today, what I thought, Vanessa, would be really cool to talk about. Vanessa shared a really impactful post, one that is a little more, I'm going to say a little more serious, so kind of like shifting the mood a little bit. But around this topic on forgiveness, and so many of us struggle with that. So many of us think we've forgiven and we, years later realize I actually haven't dealt with that, or maybe I've vocalized it and I've said I've forgiven, but you're still harvesting in your body, which also manifests into different things, that are not good and different toxic things. So share with us just a little bit like who you are and around your post, because I think it's very interesting.
And going back to what you said about us having some similar things in common, I think like one of the biggest pieces and foundations is that we're both total truth seekers. Like That's what I'm about. I feel like that's what you're about. It's like, I'm not looking to fight anybody or fight anything. I'm the truth. Like, I just want the truth to be out there. That's all it is, really, right? So going to the forgiveness piece, to give you kind of a little bit of background about me. So I had a lot of adversity growing up, which a lot of people do. I mean, it's not uncommon to hear other people now later in life share similar stories of loss and deep pain. For me, my mom died of cancer when I was 11, and my parents had a really, really bad marriage. So it's the 80s and they stuck it out. I don't think that divorce was as common back then. And it was a lot harder for women to leave, frankly, back then, as far as systems went and custody and all that kind of stuff. So my mom had a really hard time trying to leave my dad. He was violent. He was an alcoholic. On the outside, he was a successful stockbroker. We lived in a nice house in Leaside. We went to a good school, and everything appeared to be somewhat fine. Meanwhile, the police were at our house like twice a week, from my sister, like 911, hiding under a bed because my dad was like wasted, had scissors to my mom's ear. Like it just was years and years of that. So I had a foundation of serious trauma just growing up with the relationship my parents had. And then I truly believe that my mom got cancer from living like this for 23 years. She had a rare form of cancer too. It was like a liver cancer. She didn't drink. She didn't smoke. She was a creative director in advertising, very successful, juggling 3 kids, like just an awesome, creative, artsy, beautiful human being, married basically, and got stuck with them and had 3 kids. She tried to leave many times. She would threaten. Anyhow, when I was 10, she got really sick and she tried to fight it for a year, but she ended up passing away when I was 11. And while she was dying, she was like, what is going to happen to my children? They're following this, and like, this can't happen. So she basically begged people to take us, to have a plan before she died. And that's a really big ask on a lot of people. We didn't have a lot of family. My mom was an immigrant from the UK. Like, my family was in Europe. I didn't have a lot of family around. So a distant cousin, ended up agreeing to take us, who was quite well off. We didn't know them. But they only wanted 2 of us. So they took 2 sisters, left the other, which is tough. Like, so our oldest sister got separated from us, went to live with a friend. They villainized her. So we had very little relationship. My middle sister ended up running away after a couple of years because the mental anguish of this person that we lived with. I don't want to name her. She's old, and anyhow, it's awful. It was like 6 years of fucking mental abuse. Right. Coming from that trauma to this, when you're a child, you think that you're doing something wrong. You're like, so I had that whole, like, I'm going to be perfect. I'm going to get the best marks. I went to private school. They sent me to great places because they were affluent, but they kind of didn't want anything to do with me. It was like, I think they just felt guilted to taking us. Anyhow, she had a tremendous amount of abuse growing up, and I think I was a reflection of that. However, I didn't come to that realization until literally the other day. I mean, I've forgiven them and her mentally so many times throughout my life. I've been in therapy. I've done all the stuff, like, I really felt like I had forgiven this already. And then through the work that I've been doing in the past year, like a lot more spiritual healing, a lot more meditation and yoga, and just going deeper into my spiritual practice, I was literally, I'll tell you, when I was 16, I ran away, and I ended up almost on the streets. I had nothing. I didn't have a penny to my name. I had no parents. I literally had a garbage bag. That's where I was at. So thank God my best friend's family took me in, and they were amazing and really helped me start my adult life on my own at 16. And I remember them calling these people to say, like, she's here. Like, what is happening? She's a kid. Like, and they're like, well, she's not been the easiest, of course. Like, I was a great kid, but I had emotional baggage from losing both my parents. Meanwhile, still a star athlete and a great student. It wasn't like I was doing drugs or anything. I was just sad. Anyhow, they're like, yeah, she should just get welfare. Like, we're done. Wow. So the other day I was in a salt cave. I love to go to my salt caves and sound bath. And I was in there and I was just listening to this sound bath, and I do a lot of sound healing. Like, I love sound healing. And I saw this vision of the woman that I lived with as a kid, like this broken, abused kid. And it was like, it just struck me that she saw me as a reflection of her damage. And it probably just killed her every day looking at me, like bringing that up because she was so unhealed herself. And I kind of had to come to Jesus with her inner child and my inner child. And it was like,
Wow.
I forgive you. Like I really, but it was so deep in my body. Like, I don't think we realize how much we store our pain and trauma in our bodies. It's so easily to say, I'm over something, I forgive something, but unless you dive deep and you really do that breath work and you go into your body, it still lives there. So I was like bawling for an hour there, and I'm like, it's done. Like,
wow.
It's done. You know, I just felt that weight, and I'm like, holy shit, like took me to my 40s, but it's done. And it's just so, and just the power of forgiveness is such a beautiful, amazing thing. Because when we hold on to that, we're only hurting ourselves and everybody else around us. You know, that pain, I'm sure I inflicted it on others.
Yeah.
Because 100%. It was still in me. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like I read your post. If you haven't read Vanessa's post, I encourage you just to do that to put it even into some context of like what she shared. Obviously, there's so much more here that you've shared. You know, first, I just like, I honor you and like, you know, see you for sharing and being so vulnerable, you know, and this is why I said to Vanessa, I'm like, would you be willing to kind of chat about this? Because there's so many things that happen to all of us that are so traumatic. And it's the things that we hold on so tight that we don't want to talk about, but it actually is so releasing, right? It's so healing once you open it up, and that which you think like often separates us is actually what brings us closer together as people. You know, like you have people on here going, I can relate to that. Or, you know, just harvesting emotions and anger, resentment, unforgiveness that you have not dealt with. You know, this is not as nearly like as, you know, as heavy as a story for you or as yours, sorry. But for the past like 3 weeks, I've been dealing with a back spasm in my lower left side of my back. And I went to like my girl here and trying to figure out what's different. Like when I'm in Dostara, I have a full-blown gym. So I'm lifting so heavy. Like I lift, actually that's my shirt today. And I lift a lot.
Hey, I watched your stories 3 times. I was like, she's working so hard today.
You know, so like I lift a lot. And so back here though, I have just like my own equipment here, and I've got like not a squat rack, but I've got, you know, my dumbbells, and then I have a pole for like actually lifting properly. But I'm not literally lifting as heavy. So I'm like, to have my back get thrown out, I'm like, what is going on? And so I'm like convinced that it's energetic. And there were some things going on around anger, manipulation. I was developing resentment. And so the girl that works on my back, she also does my scar work from explanting. She's like, talk to me about like, what are you feeling, these emotions? What's been going on in the past few weeks? Anyways, the long story short is really dealing with a lot of stuff in my own past where I harvest, and I'm aware of it. And this is the other kind of, you know, reminder to each of us that I have done so much work over the years to let go of anger, to let go of the resentment, to forgive, all of these things. Mine is so deep as yours is so deep. And it's not a one time, I forgive you and it's done, right? Like you have to be conscious of how these things can creep up. And it's kind of like pulling back the layers of the onion, or like I say, like draining the swamp, you know, so you can puncture a hole in the swamp and you get this breakthrough, but there's still so much that needs to actually come out and purge. And so it's that reminder that we constantly need to be working on ourselves, and that we constantly need to be checking in as to like, what am I feeling? Where is that coming from? And why is it there? You know, and she worked on my back, like pushing through, and she's like, I can get through the surface, and this is going to give you like alleviation for maybe like the next week. But this is so deep. Like you still have so much inner work, energetic work like you need to do. And I keep saying to her, I'm like, God, I've been doing this for years. Like, how much more do I have to keep doing this? Like, what else do I keep doing? Right?
I know. Listen, I'm the same. And I think a big piece of that is like embracing
100%.
the lifelong journey of it, right? Like, and it's such joy when you start really getting into it. Like, yes, healing hurts too. I actually on this post, it's this guy and he's like hammering an inner tube on the guy's stomach, and like the guy's like, stop. But healing hurts. It's painful to, but then the other side of that hurdle, and you're like, oh, it's like another level, and you just like it keeps going and going, and it's endless, and that's the journey of our lives, really.
And also too, like the growth side, for me, I'm no different than I'm sure yourself. Like, when Vanessa and I first met, it was through kind of really like the fitness health space that like brought us together. And we also had that like commonality, and like she's still such an advocate around body health, mental health, like physical health, all of the things. And so I relate a lot of what we want to see in life for our results around working out in the gym, because most of us can relate, or lack thereof, but can still relate to the outcome we want. Well, like right now, and Vanessa said, you can tell if you go on my story from the past few days, holy crap, my workouts have been so freaking hard. Like they've been
and I like
so hard that I'm like, I'm in pain right now. And it's the pain I love. It's the pain I crave, right? Like my muscles are sore, but it's a reminder that like not all the time when you're growing is it going to be pleasant or enjoyable. Like there's still pain points in that growth, even if it's a good pain, like how I'm experiencing right now, like in my muscles. I'm like, yes, I'm getting more toned. I'm building up my lean muscle again, and so it's good. But you are right. Like that journey of involvement, that journey of growth, that journey of healing to better self, period, is not always easy. And it can be painful, and it's an upward hill battle sometimes. And you sometimes fall backwards as well. You have to get up and do it all over again.
Yeah. And if you think about not doing the work, it's so much more painful. So I'd say go for it. Experience the pain of healing versus the pain of living an unhealed life.
Yeah. So that's what I mean about like the more we do this work, right? This self-development, this involvement, the more attuned you are. And then it is so amazing that then you can go to like an acupuncturist, you can use a Healy to enhance that which you already know. But I'm not reliant on that person. It just affirmed what I was already feeling.
And I think it's really important conversations, because if I was listening to this 6 years ago, I'd be like, huh? Like, I'm not joking. I would be like in a massage therapist. Like I just was not, I was like connected, but not, I don't know. It's been a real journey for me. And now I'm like, I feel so aligned, and more aligned you are, the more it all just enters your life. You don't even, you're just calling it in unknowingly. It just keeps changing. And so for anybody in like the beginning phases of this kind of work, I think it's really exciting and interesting, and it's great to create this awareness everywhere for people who are not there,
and here's a reverse side, just because, because I could maybe hear people going, cool, but how do I even become in tune with my body? Yeah. If I didn't know where to start, and let's say I went to the acupuncturist, this is a great time to like get in front of a journal how your body feels, like document it. So you receive this information. What are your emotions that you're feeling right now? What are the foods are you eating? What's your alcohol intake doing right now? What is your sleep patterns like? But like describe it, like how is your digestion? Are you more gassy? Are you feeling bloated? Are you feeling inflamed? Like that for me is in my body. Like it's almost right. It's like no matter what workout I do, it's like I feel like I'm gaining 2 pounds a day. That's how I feel right now, And so it's like it's there. It's like, okay, you receive this information, cool. But now document it so that the next time like you feel that, or tracking your progression, right? So like the things that you start to do you start to feel lighter? Do you start to feel weightless? Like, do you start feeling like things are being cleared out? And really being intentional about how you feel, and start from your body, from your body, obviously, but like start from the top of your head, right? And that's like where we say do the full body scan of like checking in with yourself. Are your shoulders tight? What's going on in there? My shoulders are always tight. But like those are the small steps that like you start to intentionally just like check in.
You know, I was sharing my stories today. Like the number one thing that people say to me, like, I don't have time. I'm too busy with my kids, all these things. And it's like, you're choosing your kids and your family when you do this. You're choosing to show up as the best version of yourself when you start practicing doing these practices and being aligned with yourself and your health and your mental health. Like it's choosing your family by doing this.
I agree with that 100%. And it's really a mindset that you need to shift your perspective that people call it selfish. I call it self-care, that you need to make yourself the number one priority. And when you do that, you get to show up as the best version of yourself for your husband, for your kids, for your siblings, you know, for your parents, for your clients, for me, you know, like, and that you are your number one client. If you're in business, I always say that you are your number one client. You have to come first. And that's when you get to invest in your own self to show up and be the best version for everybody else. And you either will, if it's a priority, you will make it happen. Otherwise, you'll make an excuse. So it's like you have to shift that perspective as to why you need to make yourself a priority. And of course, like we both, like, and you guys know I am huge on being like, never miss a Monday because it sets the tone for the week, you know?
Yes.
I know.
Happiness. Like who doesn't want to be happy? You know, I choose happy every day. And these things support happiness and joy and a good full life. And that's what our kids need to see us living. That's what children who are the future of this planet need to see adults living and doing.
There's a lot of good discipline. Before I say that thought, Laura, I see your comment. Flip me a DM and I'll send you the acupuncture person as well, just before I forget. You know, but I was going to say is I think it's also really important. You're teaching your kids disciplines, right? Because life, as much as you love your kids and maybe, you know, moms or parents are being like, oh, it's easy because you're not a parent. So like, it's easy for you to say this, but life doesn't just revolve around their schedules. As much as you want to give them everything, it's healthy for your kid to see as much as you're showing up for them, you're showing up for yourself as well, you know, and as much as there's playtime, there's also fitness time, you know, as there's homework time, there's more enjoyment time. Like it's a balance. And when you're only doing one thing and you don't just see this, not just like as a parent, right? But like, even whether it's your work or you're in a relationship, if it's all one-sided, you really start to harvest, bringing this back full circle, resentment. Yes. Hello. Resentment.
Yeah, and it's because you're not taking care of yourself. And that's kids can feel that. Like, I find now my kids, like, yes, when you shift and start, you know, making yourself more of a priority, they're like, wait a second, you're not going to get back and be at my beck and call every 24/7. But now my kids are like, way to go, mom. Oh, that acting job. Oh my gosh, good luck. Like, they're like my biggest supporters now.
Their kids start showing up in their workouts because your kids want to do what you're doing, right? Like you are their teacher, you're their mentor, you're their inspiration, they're your friend. Like they show up. I mean, so many of like people, like friends of mine, but also, you know, different influencers I see, it's like they're doing their version of yoga to get it in, but their little one is like right there. And sometimes they're on them, but it's like, have fun with it. The point is just to do it, you know, and kids start seeing like that importance. And you also then make health, body movement, body image, all of that fun, right? Not a chore. Yeah. It's like when you make it a priority, it's like, no, I'm doing this because I want to do this. Like, and it's a whole different energy you pour into it. And kids, like you were saying earlier, they feel that.
They feel it and it feeds them and then they want to do it for themselves. Like the ripple effect is only amazing. Don't you think the world would be a different place if every human did breath work?
I do. Yeah.
I wish that for everyone on this planet to try breath work sometime.
That and just like simple gratitude time, you know, just like creating space for yourself. I think it's so simple and it sounds so obvious as a foundational, but you can kind of tell people who don't have that practice in their life, truthfully.
It's interesting how like you just get there at some point and some people take longer. Some people get there earlier in life. I guess that has to do with like souls and I don't know, but I find it a very interesting thing to see. Like for me, I think I dabbled in it in my 20s and then I shut it off. And out and was like, no, I actually had this thought. So might sound strange, but I did a post about it today. And when I was in my late 20s, I had this feeling like, I remember this thought. It was like, I'm so sick of me. I am so sick of me. And that I was myself, my spiritual being. I was so sick of me. I was sick of the person I'd created from all the trauma that I had lived in my life and all the things and bad habits that I used to do to avoid that self. And I remember having a thought saying, I'm so sick of me. And then I was like, I need to become a mom. I want to be a mom because I'm so sick of me. But I think, and I'm glad I became a mom. I love being a mom, but I don't think that's what I was saying to myself. Right. I was saying something else, but I took it as perfect time mom. I had a lot of unhealed trauma. And then becoming a mom just ripped all the scabs off. And I was like, holy shit, I have a lot of trauma and a lot of work to do on me with these humans now. And now I am like, I have found I again, myself. Like me is disappearing.
That's just like how human of you, literally, right? Like how human of you. And that is the cycle of life and being raw and authentic. And, when you fall off course of like where you want to be, it's like you at any point can decide to pivot and get back on, It's a good reminder and a good invitation to self, really. Oh man, so good. Vanessa, I love you so much. And I'm just so grateful for literally how the universe has woven us back together. And, I'm so grateful for you sharing your stories. And again, if you have not tuned into episode 9, make sure you do that because that's a whole other impactful story on its own. And I know it's going to bring so much value to you. Even if you haven't gone through an explant journey yourself, there's still so much that Vanessa unpacks in that episode that it really hits home. So I just encourage you to, go get your workout in, maybe go for a walk, listen to our episode. If you're one of those people that listen to podcasts during their workouts in the car or whatever. I know you guys just got hit with some new snow. If you're tuning in from like Toronto, this is a cozy day, get a cup of coffee or tea and, bring some good value into your afternoon.
And thank you for creating a platform to share so much amazing, inspiring, and valuable information to the world. It's brave and courageous. It's a lot of hard work.
Thanks, Vanessa. See, guys, why I love her? Isn't she just so wonderful? So, anyways, girl, I love you. Thank you again for sharing. I can firmly say on behalf of Vanessa and I, go get your workout in, go move your body today, get it done, sets the tone for the week. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning into the Freedom CEO podcast. If you got value out of today's show, I would love for you to leave a review as it will help my show reach other people as well. You know what to do. Download this episode, click the like and subscribe button. If you feel like spreading more love, hop over to Instagram and share today's show in your stories. Remember to tag Shae Verdeaux and the Freedom CEO. My DMs are always open, so drop me a line. I'd love to connect. Until next time, keep owning your decisions to live a life of freedom. Live a life you love.